We're just absolutely fucked as farmers, guys. Everything is so fucked, and I do not see anybody surviving this farm crisis that we're in. Guys, look, one of the best splorn crops that I have ever raised in my life. And because of the tariffs, China will not fucking buy it. And they are the only country in the world other than, well, they are the only country in the world that buys splorn. And so now I'm literally just chopping it and blowing it on the fucking ground because it's fucking useless, it's valueless, there's nothing I can fucking do to it. I am going to need government assistance to make it through this fucking crisis until these tariffs end. Look, I've never raised a splorn crop like this, guys. And this is just fucking heartbreaking to me. I don't know how I'm gonna survive. You know, Trump said he fucking loved us farmers, and here I am just blowing my splorn crop all over the ground. Hopefully he works a deal out where Antarctica and Mars will start buying this splorn and save the farmers. I'm sorry, splorn crop, but you're fucked.
Here we go again. Another fuck around and find out moment. This one, Arkansas farmers. Yep, Arkansas farmers who voted overwhelmingly for President Trump. Well, here's a quote from one of those Arkansas farmers, and I'm going to do it in my best Arkansas accent. Right now, we're in a very dire situation. September is upon us. Harvest is starting in the deep south, and we have 0 bushels of soybeans on the books to be sold to China. Yeah, no shit. You voted for the tariff guy. And now, Arkansas farmers want a handout. They want federal assistance. This poor ass red state that votes Republican every freaking year. They want a handout. You damn socialists. I guess you're finding out that racism sure is expansive, huh? Fucking dumbasses.
Now, I've never been as worried as I am now about whether or not my kids and grandkids will be able to carry on.
He said, I love you, Mr. Trump. I need to see the fruit of your love.
5 of my customers have committed. That's how serious that this is.
And what it costs for us to farm is astronomical now.
I farm with paid-for equipment. All my tractors are 50 years old, and I can't hardly make this deal work. I think the tariffs are the ice cream on the cake of a perfect storm.
After a horrible year last year where most farmers in Arkansas Delta lost money, this year's going to be worse.
We made a decision to go out this year in the spring. So my son will not be the 7th generation on our farm.
We're going to lose 25 or 30% of the farmers in this country if they don't do something. It has to be done, and it's not just here. It's everywhere.
Now we're in a very dire situation. September's upon us. Harvest is starting in the deep south, and we have 0 bushels of soybeans on the books to be sold to China for this current crop that's about to come out of the field.
I don't want anybody to think that I'm asking for sympathy on behalf of these guys, because God knows I don't have any for the ones that voted. The FAFO is all over my feed, and this can get kind of dangerous. We're in dangerous territory with all of this. White folks in particular are having a very powerful reaction to this. Because it's the first time for most of you that you found yourself being the white man's nigger. Like somebody poking at you just for the sake of poking at you, even when it's self-destructive to themselves, just because they think they're better than you and you deserve it. You all are unpracticed in having to seek redress and remedy for this kind of thing. And because of that, because you're kind of in your infancy or adolescence when it comes to seeking justice, you all tend to think that justice and vengeance are the same thing. And that makes you very dangerous to yourselves and to everyone you claim to care about. It's one thing to hope that the farmers who have the day that they deserve and have the crop that they voted for and put in the ground so to speak. But we also need to remember that if you put 100 farmers in a room, 25 of them didn't want this. Okay? And those 25 farmers are real people, and they don't deserve to be the collateral damage in this kind of martial thrust towards vengeance, which is kind of what the whole FAFO thing is to me. And I worry about the vengeance part, and I worry about the white people part coming together, because white people in particular have the ability to affect policy down the road. I worry that some of you who are reading this stuff and watching this stuff online about, have the day you voted for, let's take away the subsidies, you should go bankrupt, you deserve X, Y, and Z. I'm afraid that some of them are going to wind up in positions of power to influence that kind of thing happening. And I'm not sure that their actions will be properly considered. It is very unfortunate that we are in a position systemically where a very small percentage of the population, about 1%, who are overwhelmingly in favor of what this represents, are the ones who are controlling our food supply. But in the short term, we need to recognize that that is the way it is. And if we start pulling the cords out of the food system in order to make sure that the people get what they deserve, we're going to wind up hurting ourselves. We're going to wind up hurting our own food supply. We're going to wind up hurting working class families who have nothing to do with this, just to make sure that 75% of farmers get a black eye. That's not a place you want to go. The late poet John Trudell wrote about living through the types of times that we're living through now. Protect your spirit, man, because you're in the place where spirits get eaten. If our desire for justice and a better future simply devolves into a quest for vengeance and retribution and hatred, we're going to become the thing that we're fighting. Keep in mind that that's what these guys are doing. They're not building anything. They're just lashing out and hitting people that they don't like. It's vengeance politics. This is not some lame-ass biblical request for people to turn the other cheek or love thy neighbor or whatever. This is more me hoping that people will recognize that we have limited time. We have limited energy, limited resources, and building the future we want when it comes to food or anything else, I think is going to burn up just about all the resources we have. And I don't think we have the luxury of devoting our limited cycles to tearing down these people's futures. So here comes the shameless plug. You can scroll away now if you want to. I've written a book about what that future looks like, and I think anybody that's watching all these FAFO things about Arkansas farmers, and I hope you lose your farm, etc., could stand to learn a thing or two or three about the way the agricultural system actually works. Read the book that I wrote with the link in my bio, First Generation Farming, and come at this from an informed place so that you're not just throwing punches into a void that you don't understand.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Echo Room Vibes. I hope you guys are all doing well and taking care of yourselves. Let's get into the latest story that has people talking. Arkansas farmers in tears, regretting their votes over tariffs and now begging for bailouts. Credit to the creators and stitches who pulled these clips together, because the perspective in these videos are important to unpack. So let's just dive into the rest of the video and we will be back for more commentary.
This is my take on the Arkansas farmers who are pleading for a bailout because they are months away from filing for bankruptcy on their small family farms. We have been here before. The last time Trump was president, there was a $12 billion farmer bailout because of Trump's tariffs. Bailout money comes from taxpayers. A large portion of that bailout money came from my home state of California because we are the 4th largest economy in the world. So California literally helps keep the lights on. We also feed America because we produce the largest amount of agriculture in America. But these farmers knew that Trump was going to put more tariffs on if he were to get back into the White House. He literally campaigned on it. They literally almost lost their family farms back a few years ago because of these same exact tariffs. They knew that was possible and they voted for him anyways. And why shouldn't they when they continue to get bailed out? There will be a farmer bailout package yet again, and this cycle will continue. I just think the bare minimum should be this. If you are a farmer and you have gotten a bailout to save your family farm multiple times over, you just keep your mouth shut about California, because we keep your lights on. You don't have to like us, you don't have to visit us, but just keep your mouth shut about us. Don't talk about our crime rate when y'all got the problem of Little Rock. And save your "it's a blue city and that's why it is what it is." You got 2 red senators and a red governor and a red state legislator. That's who controls the money that funnels through to Little Rock. And they do nothing for the high crime rate of Little Rock. You don't need to go on about Gavin Newsom. He's not your governor. He's not your problem. You should have your own concerns about your own governor, who likes to take trips to Paris on taxpayers' dime. You keep your eyes on your own paper, we'll keep our eyes on our own paper while bailing you out. Because that's what California does.
So the people who say no handouts just lined up for a handout. Now tell me why farmers in Arkansas are standing outside with their hands out again, begging Uncle Sam for money. See, when it's regular people struggling, rent too high, groceries too ridiculous, can't afford health care, the answer is always from these people: stop complaining, stop asking for handouts, and pull yourself up by your bootstrap. Farmers in Arkansas are crying out to the feds for stimulus money like it's open mic night. And look, I get it, because times are hard everywhere. When you plant your crops, raise your cattle, take on the risks of farming, wasn't that a personal business decision? So why is it on me and you to make sure that that decision keeps paying out? Because see, when you and I make bad decisions, government doesn't cut us a check to make it right for us. Now, let's connect the dots here a little bit. These are the same people voting for the same politicians who say government is the problem. Yet as soon as the tractors stop running and their profits dry up, government magically turns into a solution for them. Ain't that funny and ironic? The question is, do we owe farmers any help? Or do they need to practice what they preach? Figure it out. Tighten that belt. Leave taxpayers out of it. Because last I checked, it's really not our problem to fix somebody else's gamble.
It's Joe from Georgia. So another state is in the news about collapsing their farming industry. And it's the great state of Arkansas. They held meetings in Arkansas this week with the farmers because of the dire situations that they are in. Because, folks, they're not being able to sell their products. They have money in the ground, but they can't get any money out because the United States government, which had guaranteed them certain things, were lost in the big, beautiful bill. Well, in these meetings, it has been said that if an emergency bailout, which is what the farmers are asking for, folks, they're asking for a bailout in Arkansas, that 1/3 of them will file bankruptcy. Hundreds of millions of dollars going into bankruptcy. So you're going to have these people who generational wealth will be totally wiped off the map in the state of Arkansas. But here we go again, another state that overwhelmingly supported the president in his race. And believe it or not, there are still 70% of those farmers will say they believe in the tariffs that are putting them into bankruptcy. Folks, when those type of things are happening in your life, you've got to ask yourself, would I have thought this way 10 years ago? And I'm going to say pretty easy, the answer is no. You're not going to worship the thing that's bankrupting you.
I tell you what, If the federal government caves in and gives these whining white farmers in Arkansas and all over the country welfare checks that they are crying and begging for because they are dealing with the consequences of their vote, then I hope that the National Black Farmers Association gets together and files a class action lawsuit against the government, just like those white farmers did in 2021 in order to block stimulus aid to black farmers. They sure did. They filed a lawsuit in 2021, white farmers, including those in Arkansas, to bar the federal government from giving a $4 billion stimulus package to black farmers and farmers of color because they felt it was reverse discrimination and it was unconstitutional. Well, if the federal government turns around and gives them money, then yes, National Black Farmers Association, please get together and file the biggest lawsuit that you can against the federal government. I've tagged John Boyd, who is the founder of the National Black Farmers Association, in this video. You all please go follow him, learn more about the National Black Farmers Association and how you can help them fight for economic justice for our black farmers. Thanks, y'all.
Welcome back, fam. So here's the setup. We've got farmers in Arkansas, overwhelmingly Trump voters who are now facing massive losses because of tariffs. One farmer said, and I'm going to paraphrase here, harvest is starting in the deep south and we've got 0 soybeans on the books to be sold to China. 0. This is catastrophic for people whose entire livelihood depends on international buyers like China. And yet, these are the same farmers who voted for the guy who made tariffs the centerpiece of his trade war. Now the internet reaction was quick. You voted for this, now deal with it, no sympathy. And I get it. This feels like another textbook FAFO, F around and find out moment. Actions have consequences, but here's the tension we've got to sit with. When a whole state or community is hit, not everyone voted for the policies that hurt them. One of the stages raised that point beautifully, saying, look, you can put 100 farmers in a room and 25 of them didn't want this. They didn't vote for tariffs, but they still get crushed as collateral damage when these policies collapse markets. And that's real. Those people don't deserve to lose everything just because the majority bought into a bad promise. But let's zoom out. Why are farmers so vulnerable to this kind of whiplash in the first place? It's because the US agricultural system is heavily dependent on subsidies and global markets. We tell farmers, you are the backbone of America. But when trade wars hit, when prices collapse, when droughts come, what happens? Suddenly, the same farmers who rail against socialism are in Washington begging for government bailouts. And the irony of that isn't lost on anybody. There's also a racial layer here. One commentator said this is the first time many white farmers are experiencing what it feels like to be treated unfairly, like they are disposable, the way black and brown communities have been treated for centuries. And that's uncomfortable but worth sitting with. Because if your pain is only real when it happens to you, then you are missing the whole point about solidarity and justice. At the same time, we've got to be careful. The call for vengeance, the joy some people take in watching farmers get what they deserve, can be dangerous. Because those same farmers still hold political power. They are still part of a system where resentment can be weaponized. If people see urban folks laughing at the pain, their backlash fuels the next wave of reactionary politics. That's how cycles of division keep repeating. So, where does that leave us? I think this story is less about one farmer crying in Arkansas and more about a broken system. a system where small farmers are pawns in trade wars they can't control, where rural America keeps voting against its own interests because politicians weaponize race and culture while quietly selling them economic ruin. And when it all collapses, instead of solidarity, what we get is finger pointing. So here's the real question for all of us watching. How do you break that cycle? Do you just let people find out the hard way, even if it means communities collapse? Or do you hold space for empathy while still holding people accountable for their choices? Because at the end of the day, tariffs don't just hurt farmers. They ripple out to grocery prices, supply chains, and the whole economy. When rural America bleeds, eventually urban America feels it too. That's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to face. But I'll trade it to you all. Should we be laughing at these farmers as they beg for bailouts? Or is this the moment to push for a bigger conversation about how race, class, and politics keep America divided while billionaires and corporations stay winning? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I really want to hear what you think. Thanks for watching from Echo Room Vibes. Peace out.